Hello, faithful, and welcome to the 49ers Plus podcast. I'm Al Moriello, and this is your source for the most objective 49ers discussion. Only smart takes, never any clickbait. And today, we're going to be discussing a little bit about Brandon Aiyuk and his future and some of the reporting that's out there. Robert Saleh's coaching future, Fred Warner's recovery timeline. There's a lot that's being floated out there. Twitter twats return, although they've never really gone anywhere. We're going to talk roster moves, injuries, break down the Niners hosting the Titans on Sunday, and then I will give a prediction. So let's get right into it, everybody. This is our first podcast, and I'm recording this on Thursday night, December 11th, since December 1st. So it's been about a week and a half. Niners on a bye. Thought about having a podcast in the last week, beginning of this week, but there really just wasn't a whole lot to discuss, right? And I even noticed on 49ers social media, things are slowing down. You still have a steady dose of morons and stupidity, but not nearly as much as going into a game or coming out of a game, or if there was really any news of note. But I did see, I guess it is a slow news week, because I saw today that one of the leading Bay Area radio stations posed a question to, I forget who, I just saw it online, that if the Bengals are going to trade Joe Burrow, should the 49ers get in on it? Now, here's my short answer. Of course, that's an upgrade at quarterback. Of course. My long answer is, how is this a discussion point at all? I mean, is it actually news if you have morons bring things up to talk about? Does that actually make it newsworthy when it's stupid topics brought up by potentially stupid people? And I'm not saying that these Bay Area radio hosts are stupid people, but you can tell that it's a slow 2 weeks in Niner land from their last game against Cleveland. Last weekend was the bye, upcoming in a couple days, hosting the Titans. Who's to say that the Bengals would be trading Joe Burrow? Why are they going to trade the face of the franchise? Because they're having a down year? Because the defense is terrible again? If anything, you should trade T. Higgins. Cincinnati, Mike Brown, if anybody's listening. The Bengals need help in a lot of space, in a lot of places. I mean, they need offensive line help, of course, and the defense is putrid. But the thought of entertaining the thought that the Bengals would trade their franchise quarterback because they're on another down year, and this time it's not really going to matter if they're really making a run at the playoffs. I mean, I guess mathematically they could still catch the Steelers, who are a game up on the Ravens after beating them this past weekend. But to talk about this as if it's actually a thing, and by a thing, I mean the Bengals actually considering on a lark to, oh yeah, let's trade. Everything's going so wrong. Let's trade Joe Burrow so things will go even worse. We saw what the team looked like without Joe Burrow. So the answer is there's certainly other players you could trade, and I would be all for T. Higgins going and using some of those assets and that money to build up the offensive line and the defense. Joe Burrow is certainly not the problem, and he's one of the few answers, along with Jamar Chase, on that team that could help turn that team around. So let's go from one stupid thing to another. And this might have been the week before, but again, I didn't have a podcast last week, of NFL insiders are linking Brandon Aiyuk to the Commanders. File this under no shit. We need an NFL insider, and I forget who it was. Not that important of an insider if we're going to be throwing out lazy stuff like this. Yes, Brandon Aiyuk went to college for a year with Jaden Daniels in Arizona State. Yes, they're friends. Yes, they've been on a podcast together. Yes, Aiyuk said that he would love to play with Jaden Daniels. The Commanders would obviously need to pony up enough to trade for Aiyuk. The whole Aiyuk may play for the Niners again, and Kyle and John saying all the right things, it's not going to happen. And even though Brandon hasn't been a social media bitch like he's been in the past, there is no way after a team voids your guaranteed bonus for next year that you come back under any circumstances. You know, athletes play the disrespect card. They disrespected me, yo. I don't care. Only if the Niners give him more money than they voided would Aiyuk even sniff or think about coming back. And even then he wouldn't. And nor would the Niners give more than the $26 million that they voided. He's gone, and that's okay. But all of this, obviously the Commanders thing is such a lazy and easy narrative. They're going to lose Deebo Samuel after this year. The Commanders are terrible, 3-10, right? Like, they caught lightning in a bottle last year. It was Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator, that fueled that run. The defense was still not good, and that's Dan Quinn's specialty. The defense is even worse this year. The offense is bad. Yes, Daniels has missed a lot of time. Thank you very much for my fantasy football team. Marcus Mariota has played relatively respectfully. You still have McLaurin, who's missed some time. You have Deebo. You had, their tight ends, whose name's escaping me. I apologize. He tore his ACL. Now he's done for the year. And there were people trying to convince me last year, not trying to convince me, trying to convince the netherworld of the internet that Dan Quinn was a top 5 coach. I was like, no. Dan Quinn is somewhere in the middle third of coaches. So like 11 to 22 on a good day. Yes, he took the Falcons to the Super Bowl. And yes, Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator for that team. But that was a powerhouse team with Julio Jones. And was it the last year of Roddy White? I forget. But then you had two-headed running back committee. You had Matt Ryan, obviously a very good offensive line, and an opportunistic defense. Highly explosive offense. Tevin Coleman and Devonta Freeman were the two running backs. And I'm just doing this off the top of my head. If I'm getting the names wrong, I apologize. Dan Quinn ain't all that in a bag of chips. No one convinced me of it last year. And now everyone's kind of full of, oh, yeah, maybe he's not that good of a coach. 1 year does not make someone a good coach. Brian Daboll, Joe Judge, any of the Stefanski for the Browns had one good year in the playoffs, and they decided to let, Baker Mayfield go, and now they've been an absolute train wreck ever since. But the lazy Aiyuk narratives of the Commanders, we file that under no shit. But remember, if the Niners cut him prior to June 1st, they're on the hook for almost $30 million in dead cap space. If they wait until June 1st or designate him a post-June 1st cap cut, they save actually $2 million on the cap. That's probably what's going to happen. They'll designate him a post-June 1st cap cut because the same mathematical rules or financial rules, I believe, applies to trading him. You cannot designate someone a post-June 1st trade candidate. That goes just straight up with the calendar. And if they trade him before June 1st, they take a significant cap hit. They're not going to do that. They're going to look out for themselves, as they should, whatever's in the best interest of the Niners. And if it's just cutting bait and getting rid of him, fine. If they can wait until June 1st, which means after the draft, which means a lot of, teams may fill their wide receiver need or think they've filled it in free agency or the draft, then you're not going to get as much for Aiyuk as they would think they would get. As it stands now, the voiding of the guaranteed contract, I think, helps an interested party because that's less money. They may want to rework the deal completely if it's a trade. And of course, teams are going to lowball San Francisco. He's damaged goods. They're not going to, we didn't see him on the field in 2025. We didn't know how the knee is. That's why you bring him in for a workout. This whole, buying him for, quarters on the dollar or, trade compensation wise isn't going to work for me. They're not going to get a first, but they should still get two picks for Aiyuk. Third and a fifth, second and a fifth, second and a fourth, something, because and maybe that second pick is a fifth that turns into a fourth based on play time or certain incentives that he hits, yards, touchdowns, catches, whatever it might be. So Aiyuk is gone no matter what. I mean, and I don't think anyone's really talking about it anymore, but the fact that it came up like the Commanders are a leading candidate, of course. I mean, Pittsburgh, I think, is a decent candidate. I think he's probably pissed that he didn't get traded to the Patriots now. I mean, look how they are this year. If it was he and Stephon Diggs, if they actually would have signed Diggs, if they had Aiyuk, And he's kicking himself. He's not kicking himself. He is probably extremely stubborn if the Niners want to get him on the field for a Super Bowl push and to show that he's healthy. Aiyuk, and I'm on Aiyuk's side on this one, it's in his best interest not to play. Doesn't matter what tape you put out there. Again, because you're going to come in for a workout. For any team that's looking to trade you, you're going to go in for a workout. So the Aiyuk stuff is ultimately put to rest. Now, Robert Saleh's coaching future came up a couple days ago. He was on a podcast with, I think, Josina Anderson. And Josina Anderson just asked him flat out, do you want to be a head coach again? He didn't really dance around. He gave an honest answer. He's like, listen, we all want to be at the top of our profession. And for us that are coordinators or have been a head coach before, want to reach the summit once again. He's like, but I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking 1 week at a time, one game plan at a time, and making our defense and position groups and players as best prepared as they can be, which is a fair answer, right? Even he said like, oh yeah, of course I would love to be a head coach again. If he was more direct or adamant about it, that would have been viewed as a negative by the fans. I think he gave a good answer. We all know, people at some point you're going to be labeled as just a coordinator. Norv Turner, Dennis Allen, these are coaches that they're just lifelong coordinators. Steve Spagnuolo, that's okay. You could still get paid really well as a coordinator. It's not head coaching money, and it's not the, you being the CEO of a team that a lot of coordinators think they can be, and probably half of them actually are, or even have the ability to do that. But if Robert Saleh is gone, next man up is Gus Bradley. And I thought that was a really savvy hire. He's a defensive assistant head coach, whatever his official title is, runs the cover 3, was the DC in Indy for the past couple of years. They didn't put up great numbers statistically, but familiar with what Shanahan wants to do. And I would be fine with that. I don't know if Gus Bradley is, in terms of a personality, like a fiery personality, an excitable person like Robert Saleh is, if he calls plays on the sideline like Robert Saleh does. But I'm hoping if it is if Robert Saleh leaves next year, and we're going to talk about that momentarily, that Gus Bradley takes a page out of Robert Saleh's book and understands that players respond to that enthusiasm. But my first pick would be if they completely blow up Cleveland from a Kevin Stefanski, defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, everything standpoint, Jim Schwartz, right? And what I learned this week or last week was that Kyle Shanahan became really enamored with the cover 3 wide 9 defense when he was a coordinator and going up against Jim Schwartz's defenses. I thought it had a little bit more, and this is even recent because you're talking about 14, 15 years ago, the Legion of Boom in Seattle doing that. And that was a Dan Quinn and a Gus Bradley after him, not invention, but type of thing. But it was actually even earlier before that with Jim Schwartz running it. And that's where Kyle Shanahan made the decision that that's the defense that I want to run because it's the defense that gives me the most difficulty, as we've seen with Jim Schwartz, but also heavy pressure packages like Minnesota runs under Brian Flores give Shanahan's offense problems as well. So I would vote Jim Schwartz 1 and be very comfortable with Gus Bradley if Robert Saleh leaves. And apparently the Las Vegas Raiders made a really strong financial offer to Saleh to be their DC. And he came back to San Francisco, which I was surprised about because I was on record saying, I don't think Saleh's going to come back. It's going to look like running back to Shanahan, and he may want to spread his wings, be more of his own man, even as a DC somewhere else. The Niners are reaping the benefits of it. They would not get a 3rd round pick, a compensatory pick for a minority hire because Saleh would need to be with them for 2 years, I believe. So if he leaves after this year, there's no pick compensation. But let's talk about the teams that are going to be open for head coaches. What we know for sure right now, it's Tennessee and the Giants are 2 head coach openings. I don't think he goes back to the New York tri-state area. I think that would be maybe a little awkward for him. And Tennessee is a complete shit show. Now, if someone offers you a job, I know Ben Johnson last year passed up some head coaching opportunities because they weren't the right fit. and he found a good fit for himself in Chicago with, the quarterback and Caleb Williams. They built the offensive line. They have some offensive weapons. You brought Dennis Allen in as the DC. There's something to be said for waiting for the right opportunity, but then at the same time, there's only 32 jobs on the planet. And during any coaching cycle, there's only going to be at most 8 openings. So you can say, yeah, grab one while you have one. But going someplace like the Jets, Cleveland, Tennessee at the moment just looks like you are setting yourself up to fail and then almost purposefully blacklisting yourself from any other coaching opportunities, because now Saleh would have had the Jets, which didn't end well. Obviously, we saw that the defense and the whole team went even farther south after he was fired. But you would have the Jets and another bad team that just maybe goes to prove, okay, we're not going to give you a third chance. You failed twice. They're not going to look at the situations and decipher anything from it. It's just going to be, it's 2 strikes and you're out. So Tennessee and New York, again, might be more appealing. Giants, New York City, proud franchise, all that's great. They're not a good team, but they have pieces, right? With Jackson Dart and Neighbors, and some players in the running game with Scottaboo and Tracy. But now other teams that could be open, Miami, they're making a little bit of a push now. They're 6-7. I don't know if that's enough for Mike McDaniel to save his job. They did let go of the GM. So I'm sure the GM is going to want to bring in their own coach. So McDaniel might be on the way out. What if Buffalo collapses again or does not make the Super Bowl or doesn't go as far as last season? Can we see Sean McDermott going? That could be an interesting spot where he could help rebuild the defense. And then obviously you have Josh Allen and some weapons on offense. They need maybe a few more weapons, but there's things to work with there. Atlanta, would Raheem Morris be gone after this absolute disaster of a season? Arizona, with how they've looked, and who knows if Kyler Murray is going to be there next year. Cincinnati, I mean, they're not trading Joe Burrow, but another underperforming year. The Brown family for the Bengals, they don't throw away money, so I can't imagine them paying 2 coaches. Possible. Cleveland, just one good season. I mean, how much more do you want to see from that coaching staff? Las Vegas, if Pete Carroll goes, and again, the Raiders offered Saleh the DC opening. And Minnesota, I mean, it's just been an absolute collapse. They made a mistake not signing Sam Darnold. JJ McCarthy is not it, but that's not to say that they can't find a quarterback if they want Mac Jones for a 1st round pick or Mac Jones for a 2nd and a 4th or something. The quarterback situation totally derailed that team. So you're looking at, maybe 9 openings, 2 for sure, Tennessee and the Giants, and then a bunch of maybes. And maybe not all of those maybes come to pass. Maybe it's somewhere between like 5 and 8 openings. I think Saleh returns. I think at this point, as much as people can make the argument that, you want a CEO type, you want a leader of men, which I think Saleh is. If you're going to go to the Giants or Tennessee with Cam Ward, Atlanta with Penix, maybe, Cincinnati, you have an established quarterback. Vegas still needs a quarterback. Minnesota does. You want to bring in an offensive person, right? You want to bring in an offensive person. But if Saleh gets a head coaching opportunity somewhere and Mike McDaniels gets fired, I think that could be a nice coach OC pairing to help kind of strengthen what the other one's lacking. But I believe Saleh returns next year. If he doesn't, give me Jim Schwartz. If not, I'd be totally okay with Gus Bradley. Fred Warner, guys, the whole recovery thing. Fred Warner's not returning for the playoffs. I know he's posting stuff on Instagram or Twitter and swimming and walking and the timeline for the broken ankle is like 4 months, and that puts you into like near the championship game or Super Bowl. He's not coming back. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an orthopedic surgeon, but I can use common sense. Remember Aaron Rodgers' first year with the Jets, tore his Achilles the first game, Monday night game against the Bills. They wound up winning that game, ironically enough. And all throughout the season, it was, well, if the Jets make the playoffs, Aaron Rodgers could return. If the Jets, they just got to hold on. They just got to get in, and Rodgers will be back. And in the offseason, he's like, yeah, that was never happening. But he kept the narrative alive. He was talking about it because he's loves the attention and he's a bit of a narcissist. But that was never a possibility. A torn Achilles coming back in 5 months? The fact that anybody believed that is absurd. More recent, how about Aiden Hutchinson last year? Broke his leg. Had to put, a titanium rod in it? Oh, but if the Lions make the Super Bowl, he might be able to play. He wasn't cleared until OTAs. That was April. Almost 2.5 months after the Super Bowl. It's good to give fans hope. And Jet fans, that's all they have is hope. Hope and misery in equal quantities. But to believe that Rodgers or Hutchinson or for the Niners that Warner could come back, I think it's a pipe dream. I don't think this is a Super Bowl year for the Niners. I don't think it's an NFC Championship game year for the Niners. Unless they get the number 1 seed, which is entirely mathematically possible. We'll talk about it in a little bit. But for all the postings and stuff that we see on social media, let's just take it with a grain of salt. Now, Twitter twats, they're always there. I think one in particular I'm going to call out, not going to give a name. But there was someone online that was a clear Brock Purdy hater. And there's a lot of them out there who was using Mac Jones's quarterback rating, traditional quarterback rating that's been around for 50 years or however long, and saying, oh my, it's so much higher than Brock Purdy's QBR. And QBR is like this made up rating by ESPN. I don't even know if ESPN knows how to calculate it, but the number is the highest you can go is 100, I think. And good is like 70. Whereas like a perfect QB rating is like in what, like the 130s, 140s. I college, I know, was a lot higher. And if I'm getting the numbers confused, I apologize. But he wasn't saying QB rating to QBR. Like actually, he was just saying rating. And I went and looked it up. I'm like, he's definitely wrong on this. There's no way. Brock Purdy's quarterback rating is higher than Mac Jones. Brock Purdy's QBR is higher than Mac Jones. And I enjoyed calling this mouth breather out. This is the same person who in a previous tweet or post, whatever you want to call it, was saying, I've been watching the 49ers for however many years since Super Bowl. This is the important part. Since Super Bowl 23, when Mike Shanahan was the offensive coordinator and left for the Broncos, and then he won his Super Bowls, and it was like one of those people that write like it's wall-to-wall text. There's no paragraphs. It's just... Okay, so half of that's true. Mike Shanahan left the Niners offensive coordinator spot to be the head coach of the Denver Broncos. But that was not after Super Bowl 23. The offensive coordinator for the Niners in Super Bowl 23 and 24 was Mike Holmgren. The offensive coordinator for the Niners in 1994, Super Bowl 29, was Mike Shanahan. And he did leave in 95 to coach the Broncos, and 2 or 3 years later, they're in the Super Bowl and they won back-to-backs, culminating in John Elway's final season with the Broncos. Called him out on that too. So if you can't get stuff right, and I mean, granted, I'm old enough to remember who the coordinator was for the Niners in the late 80s. And this person, I think, was older than me. You can't spout, and it's the problem with social media, you can't spout bullshit all the time because at some point, someone's going to call you on it. And in this case, I just happen to be, if you want to say right place at the right time. And the person had like a wise ass, like, that's why I post sometimes with my heart and not my head. Really? That's kind of like saying, yeah, Aiyuk's going to be, the Commanders are interested in Aiyuk. No shit. I see what you're writing, or a lot of people are writing. I know you don't post with your head. Probably not even your heart either. You're probably posting with your fucking elbows. It's so illiterate. So real quick, all right, so let's talk about roster moves. This past Monday, the 8th, the Niners put offensive lineman Ben Barch on IR. I thought that spot would be for Yetur Gross-Matos. It's not. They claim linebacker Garrett Wallow from the Denver Broncos, basically a special teams player. But what it also signals is Tatum Bethune is not yet ready to return. What a shock. We're going to get into that momentarily. Monday, they also signed wide receiver Javon Baker to the practice squad. They released kicker Matt Gay and quarterback Adrian Martinez. I'm going to get into that in a minute. So Javon Baker was a 2024, just 2 years ago, 4th round pick of the Patriots out of UCF. I remember following him a bit coming out. There is no guarantee he sticks on the practice squad all season. But if he does, I think he could be a candidate for a futures contract. And with Aiyuk being gone, probably not going to be able to re-sign Jennings. Who knows if Demarcus Robinson, is with the team next year if they decide to cut bait. Javon Baker is someone that could be a wide receiver 4 on this team. Now, that being said, he'll probably release next week. I'm not excited by this practice squad signing, but it raised my eyebrows. I'm like, oh, I remember him doing a little bit of scouting on him. 4th round pick. He's got the skill. He's got at least somewhat of a draft pedigree. And the Niners are going to be in the hunt for a receiver next year. And it's possible with this futures contract that it may lessen the need for the Niners to take a receiver early on. Again, Javon Baker is not a wide receiver 1. He's not a wide receiver 2. He might not be a wide receiver 3 at this point, but a wide receiver 4, he has that potential. Now, Adrian Martinez being released from the practice squad initially confused me, especially when I saw that the Jets signed him to their 53-man roster. I'm like, well, why would they do that? The Jets just claimed him. But remember, anybody could be signed off the practice squad onto another team's 53-man roster. So even if the Niners did not release Martinez from the practice squad, to have that third quarterback on the roster, on the team, just in case. Now, I don't know if they bring back Tanner Mordecai at some point or whatnot. But the Jets could have, even if Martinez remained on the practice squad, the Jets just could have plucked him off of that. So, no harm, no foul. And then yesterday, the Niners signed cornerback Isaiah Bolden to the practice squad, a 7th round pick of the Patriots in 2023. Big corner, 6'2", 203. Again, who knows if he sticks on the practice squad all year? Who knows if he's going to get a futures contract? But bolstered the wide receiving core and cornerback group in terms of these 2 practice squad moves for whatever they are worth. Now, injuries. Newly signed to the practice squad, Eric Kendricks signed on November 26th, has a tight calf. Of course he does. If there was any possibility of him being elevated for the game against the Titans, that's gone. Could be why the Niners claimed Garrett Wallow from the Broncos. So the Niners now have 6 linebackers on the 53, but Tatum Bethune is probably not going to play. So let's get into injuries. Did not practice today on Thursday. Samo with an ankle, Tatum Bethune, ankle, Nick Martin, concussion. So Nick Martin was hurt at Cleveland 2 weeks ago. Knocked out for a concussion. He's still in, if you want to call it protocol, or just did not practice. Chance he may not play. Samo didn't play versus Cleveland. So he was out versus Cleveland. Then he had the bye. Now we're coming up on the Titans game. Sunday would be 3 weeks. Not practicing on Thursday. Not great. But I guess there's an outside chance. And Tatum Bethune got hurt before the Panthers game. Didn't play against the Panthers. Didn't play against the Browns. Then you had a bye week. Now you have the Titans coming up. Sunday would be 4 weeks, which means if he can't go against the Titans, he should have been put on IR. High ankle sprain. Oh, we hope to get him back after the bye week. The Niners medical staff, nothing goes as planned. Again, this is why you should not believe at all that Fred Warner could be back for the playoffs. Should have been put on IR immediately. Immediately. Could have signed another linebacker, could have signed Eric Kendricks to the 53. And then when Bethune's healthy, you release Kendricks. Not the biggest deal in the world. But now you've wasted potentially 3.5 weeks of hoping when just use the IR spot. And then you bring him back. I mean, it's so late in the season. I know Yator's coming back. I think, what is it? You could have 8 people return from IR. If that number's too high, I apologize if I'm getting that wrong. But I knew immediately when Bethune was hurt and they didn't put him on IR, I'm like, this isn't going to go the way the Niners were planned. Now, maybe he practices Friday. Maybe he does play this weekend. I'm not counting on it. And again, another miscalculation by the medical staff. What a fucking shock. So Titans at Niners, guys, let's break it down relatively quickly. Niners are a 12.5 point favorite at home, 44.5 over under. The Titans are 2-11. Last week, they beat the Browns 31-29. Cam Ward, rookie quarterback, 14 of 28 for 117 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Tony Pollard at running back went nuts, 25 for 161 and 2 scores. Then receiving wise, you have Chimere Dyke, 5 for 24 and a touchdown. Tight end Cheek Okonkwo, 2 for 20. Receiver Van Jefferson went 2 for 17. And backup running back Tyjae Spears went 2 for 28. So other than Tony Pollard, it was a really kind of grinded out type of game. The Titans did win the time of possession battle by about 3 minutes. They won the turnover battle 2-1. Outlasted Cleveland, basically. Overall, we 2-11. We know the Titans are not a good team. Offensively, they're terrible. Last in overall offense with 246 yards per game. 31st passing, 161 a game. 31st rushing, 74 yards a game. 31st in points scored, 15.5 a game. Terrible offense, right? Obviously, defense, not much better. 26th overall, allowing 351 yards per game. 23rd against the pass, allowing 229 a game. 18th against the run, allowing 122, and 29th in points allowed, allowing 27.5 a game. Not a good team. There's not a ton to break down about this team as per the point spread, although upsets can certainly happen. Cam Ward at quarterback on the year is averaging 190 passing yards a game. He has 9 touchdowns to 7 interception and has been sacked 49 times. That's basically a little more than 4 sacks a game. Almost 4 sacks a game. Tony Pollard has rushed for 743 yards and 4 touchdowns. He is their biggest weapon. Okonkwo at tight end leads receivers in terms of receptions with 41 for 426. And Eric Ayamanor at receiver, 30 for 353 and 3 touchdowns. Not a dynamic or explosive offense. The defense does have 32 sacks on the year, which is basically twice what the Niners have, led by Jeffrey Simmons at D tackle, who's got 8. Defensively, they also have 6 interceptions, so they're not taking the ball over, turning the ball over at a crazy rate. They got 2 big men in the middle on the defensive line in Jeffrey Simmons and Tavondre Sweat. And you have some players in addition that can get to the passer between Jihad Ward, Draymond Jones, and Arden Key, who was floated out there in terms of the trade deadline. All have at least 4 sacks for Tennessee. In terms of the breakdown, the Niners cannot take this game lightly. You cannot come out slow. You cannot come out sleepwalking, especially coming off of a bye. Is there the danger of that? Of course, especially when you are playing a terrible team at home that many people are thinking you should walk all over. You have to guard against complacency, right? Cannot take it lightly because their last 4 games, Tennessee at home, at the Colts without Daniel Jones, and it looks like it's going to be Phillip Rivers, at home for the Bears and at home for the Seahawks, means that if the Niners win all 4 remaining games, and if the Rams lose a game, the Niners and the Packers lose a game. So Niners win out, Rams lose 1, Packers lose 1. The Niners are the number 1 seed in the conference. It's not completely, it's cut and dry because I just gave it to you, but it's not just one thing has to happen. 3 things, 7 things have to happen. The Niners have to win 4 games, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 6 things. Packers have to lose 1, Rams have to lose 1. But it's all in the realm of possibility. But it starts with this game, right? Get on a roll. They've already won 3 straight. Arizona, Carolina, Cleveland. Not world beaters, but you beat the teams you're supposed to beat, right? Supposed to beat Tennessee. Should beat Indianapolis. Should beat the Bears at home. And Seattle's got a really good defense. You never know what Sam Darnold's going to show up, but the Niners are favored in each of the 4 games that are remaining. I've just mentioned about Tennessee. They're terrible offensively. They're very bad defensively. This is not a team that should hurt the Niners on offense. The Niners defense isn't great. They're middling, right? They're a middling defense. The best part of the defense is the run defense, and that's not great. It's, I think, like top 12. They can be thrown on. They're giving up point. I mean, they're, I think, maybe top 14 in points. So they're not awful, but they are middling. But the Niners should roll through them offensively. Protect the football, number one. Anything stupid could happen. Fumbles, offensively, turnovers, muffed punt returns, although Sky Moore has been pretty good. Strip sacks, not clean exchanges between the center and the quarterback. Crazy shit can happen. If you protect the football and do not turn it over, they will win this game. They can maybe even survive a 1-0 turnover differential. But don't play soft. Don't play stupid. Brock, don't take any unnecessary risks. Push it downfield. That's cool. If nothing's there, don't take the hard throw. Take the check down, the scramble, or the throwaway. Live to fight another down. Don't let Tennessee hang around. How many games this year and last year? Last year, Cardinals, the Rams. I'm blanking on other games where the whole Nick Sorensen thing like collapsed. Games where they were in control, but it felt like you got to put your foot on their neck, right? Yeah, you're up 10, make it 17, make it a 3-score game. So there's no hope to come back. And I know 10's the magic number for San Francisco. It's an evil number. Super Bowls, up 10 against the Chiefs in both Super Bowls and couldn't hold on. Don't let them hang around, because if a bad team hangs around into the fourth quarter, now the bad team's playing loose and the good team's playing tight. And I don't think they should be 30-0 at halftime, but get to a 3-score lead relatively quickly. Sometime in the late second quarter, early third quarter, it should be 21-3, 17-0, 20-3, something, 24-7. That it's going to take 3 scores to tie you or 4 scores, to take the lead. Don't let them hang around, foot on their throat when you can. And then execute, right? Even execute at a mediocre level will win this game. Don't be sloppy. Execute the defense. I don't know what, take away the running game, right? Limit Tony Pollard. Limit the entire running game. Because even with Pollard going for, 161 last game, offensively, they're averaging 73 yards a game on the ground, even with Pollard's game against the Browns last week. Take away, if you want to take away everything solid, great. You don't have to play Cam Ward soft. He's not a good quarterback right now. He may never be a good quarterback. He doesn't have the weapons. Challenge this team. Don't play cover 0 every play. Don't play man-to-man every play, but challenge these non-weapons. Challenge this rookie quarterback. Make them earn everything. And then defensively and then offensively, mix it up. I want to see more Brian Robinson this game. We all should. McCaffrey didn't practice today, Thursday, due to illness. People that saw him said he didn't look good in the locker room. All right, they still got, 3 days to recover. Hopefully it's not the flu, something that really puts a player on his ass. Execute even to an average clip, and they're going to win this game. I don't care about spreads or style points. I don't care how it looks. Get a win. A relatively convincing win. I know it would make the fandom feel great because you don't want Grant Cohn and the Cohn clown clique yeah, they beat the Titans, but they didn't really kill the Titans. Well, Seattle went to Tennessee and won by 6, I think. It was a 1-score game. And I think that might have been a backdoor score at the end, whatever. But Tennessee came back on Seattle, which goes back to the don't let them hang around, protect the football, execute, and they should walk out of Santa Clara, or at least the stadium, Levi's, with a win. I'm going to say Niners 27-16. So they don't cover. Again, I don't care about covering. I don't care about not covering. I care about getting a win, getting out healthy, and moving on to a Monday night game against the Colts. And we'll see if Phillip Rivers and the Colts, we know the Colts are going to play at Seattle. We'll see if Rivers is going to play this week at Seattle. Before that looked like, with Daniel Jones, maybe the Colts can help the Niners out with the Seahawks. I mean, I'm glad I have the Seahawks defense on one of my fantasy teams week 1 of the playoffs. Let's put it that way. So the Seahawks are going to win that game, but this week, the Lions are at the Rams. Someone's got to lose, possibly tie, but someone's got to lose, which helps the Niners because the Lions are 8-5, a game behind San Francisco. Let's say the Lions lose. Now they're 8-6, another NFC loss. And if the Niners win, they're 10-4, essentially 3 games up on the Lions with 3 to go. If the Rams lose, that's great because it brings the Rams back to San Francisco. If the Niners win, they're both 10-4, and the Rams are actually in 3rd in the West because the Niners have a better divisional record. They played more divisional games. And the other game of note, the Packers are at the Broncos. AFC game, whatever, but if the Packers lose, even though they're 9-3-1, 9-4-1, they'll drop behind San Francisco. I mean, they would probably still be number 1, or maybe not. They might still be number 1 in the North. Depends on what the Bears do at home, I think, against Pittsburgh. But listen, every loss for any team that's around the Niners record, just going to root for. And then we'll figure out the Seahawks Ram thing, depending on who wins and who loses. But again, Niners win out. Rams lose 1. Packers lose 1. The Niners are the number 1 seed. Super duper crazy. So that's going to conclude the podcast for this week. Like always, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to make us part of your listening or viewing routine. Thursday night football, Falcons, Bucks, if anybody can stomach that, unless it has fantasy football playoff implications, knock yourself out. But the big game for Niner fans, and listen, any game's a big game. There's only 4 left. This should be a one-sided affair. You never know. Did anybody see the Panthers beating the Rams? Any given Sunday, you never know. If the Niners are clean, play a clean game, they'll take care of business and will be 10-4 Sunday night, either Sunday night or Monday sometime when we speak again. But whatever you do between now and then, stay happy, healthy, and safe. We will talk soon. Take care, all.